This episode of The Matt Feret Show is brought to you by the Brickhouse Agency. Brickhouse is a boutique independent health insurance agency that focuses on finding the right Medicare coverage for folks across the country. Matt's wife, Nikki, is the heart behind Brickhouse. She's great at making confusing things clear and is passionate about helping people find a Medicare insurance policy that suits their individual needs. To schedule a free one-on-one appointment with Nikki or a member of her team, head on over to brickhouseagency.com or simply call 844-844-6565 and someone will help you schedule a phone call or a Zoom meeting. The consultation is free because the insurance companies pay Brickhouse, not you. There's never any pressure or obligation to enroll. Your clearer, simpler Medicare journey is just a call or click away. BrickhouseAgency.com. Not affiliated with or endorsed by the government or federal Medicare program. Contacting Brickhouse Agency, LLC will direct you to a licensed insurance agent.
Hello everyone, this is Matt Feret, author of Prepare for Medicare and Prepare for Social Security Insiders Guidebooks and online course training series. Welcome to another episode of The Matt Feret Show, where I interview insiders and experts to help light a path to successful living in midlife, retirement, and beyond. James and Sylvia, welcome to the show.
Hi, Matt. Thanks for having us.
How's it going?
It's going. Tell everybody what you do, how long you've been doing it, and how you help people, and feel free to go one at a time.
All right, so I guess I'll start. My name's Sylvia, and I am the co-owner of Health Made in America. My background is that I am a doctor of pharmacy. It's been about like 6 years now that I've been a pharmacist. And I spent most of my career at retail pharmacies, so at Walgreens and Walmart as your local friendly pharmacist. And then I actually decided to go back to school and study Ayurveda, which for those that might not be familiar with it, a lot of people aren't at this point still, it's actually the sister science of yoga. So yoga goes back to ancient India, right, before it came over to our country. And sadly, Ayurveda was left behind. So yoga was always meant to be kind of the spiritual practice for a person, not as much the physical as it kind of is used today. So it was meant for the spiritual. And then Ayurveda was actually the mental and the physical health for an individual, and the practices and preventative care and that kind of stuff that goes into health. So the two, Ayurveda and yoga, were supposed to make up health for the mind, body, and soul. So I went back to school for Ayurveda, and so I'm an Ayurvedic wellness counselor, and I do consultations and education with individuals on how to kind of change their diet and lifestyle to hopefully help avoid medications. I met this lovely man actually at the pharmacy.
Wait a minute.
You can take it away.
Yeah. All right, James, you're up. And by the way, we're not going to skip that topic. We're going to come right back to it.
We didn't meet at the pharmacy. I was her manager. We got married a year ago, and we just had a baby.
Congratulations.
4 weeks old. Thank you. 4 weeks old tomorrow. So, and so I myself am also a pharmacist in retail, co-owner with her of Health Made in America. And some of the things that we do, so we, going off of Ayurveda, one of the key principles is your gut health. So we did start with, besides her consultations that we do, we did design a probiotic as well. So we do have our own probiotic.
Oh, wow.
That we designed, and we base ours off of our experience in the pharmacy as far as like the ones that we saw and the strains that worked well. And then the only thing that we really wanted to, our key with ours was that we didn't like all the inactive ingredients that they put in a lot of these things on the shelf. So because they put so many fillers and preservatives, and we wanted a cleaner product. So we found a manufacturer that was able to make that for us, a cleaner product with basically no inactive ingredients besides cellulose capsule and powder to load the bacteria. So that's what we currently do. And then what we're working on is education. That was really our goal when we started a company, is that we wanted education, health education, because we see that there's so many people on prescriptions now. They're overprescribed at this point. And so we want to find a way to help people prevent them from basically being on prescription drugs. You know, there's just not enough information out there as far as keeping people off of medications. Most doctors are putting people on medications, but they're not giving them ways to prevent them from being on like a blood pressure, cholesterol medicine. So like lifestyle changes, things like that. They're not really focused on that so much anymore. So that's where we want to get back to, is help people stay off of medications.
Yes, thank you. So both of you, and by the way, I do want to know more about that whole workplace romance. That's oh
yeah.
So maybe we'll maybe we'll do that at the end of the show. How about that? We'll say that at the end of the show. But I'm going to get there.
Sure, absolutely.
So let me just point of clarification: are you both now still currently retail pharmacists, or have you guys both made the move, or one of you, to just doing this?
Yeah, so I left retail pharmacy, hallelujah, and I am now 100% taking care of Health Made in America via the consultations and our probiotic, and kind of working on our next thing.
Nice.
But my angel here is still in the pharmacy.
I'm still there.
Well, you've got a new marriage and a new baby. I mean, that's a big thing. I totally understand where you're coming from. So it was interesting what you said is you're both very recently or currently still in retail pharmacy, and you mentioned the phrase like overprescribed. And what's your like day-to-day, or what was your day-to-day experience in retail pharmacy? Because I think many of us, and myself included, when we go to the pharmacist, we fill our prescriptions. It's harried, it's frenetic, it's crazy. Sometimes if you're pulling in the drive-through, you're talking into a bullhorn, so it sounds like, and it's very transactional. There's a hot minute where the pharmacist goes, "Do you have any questions?" No, And so, like, what the experience you've had in the retail pharmacy setting led you to say the phrase "overprescribed" for a reason, right? And you said, you said hallelujah out of retail pharmacy. What is it like right now? I mean, obviously, we're not bashing anybody or any profession, but from your perspective, what's that like right now in terms of where the retail pharmacist and pharmacy fits into healthcare in America, and what do you see are needed changes, which is what led you to today?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think I have so much to say about this. Well, I think frustrating would be a really good word to start off with. I think a lot of pharmacists would definitely agree with me on that. And that's because, the role of a pharmacist is to be a medication safety individual. That's kind of our role, right? To make sure that people get safe medications. They don't take medications for no reason, that there's always a reason on there, and they're using the best medication available for that individual, and that there's no interactions, right? Like it's safety. At this point, it has become very transactional, like you're saying. It's a drive-through, it's a McDonald's almost, right? And it's just not a setting where safety is any longer priority. And there's not really the time and the space to be able to have those conversations. And you have pharmacists being like, "Any questions?" Like almost hoping like you don't have any questions, right? And it's like, and that's sad. We laugh, but it's sad, because that's what this profession has come to. And it shouldn't be that way, right? Because I think at the end of the day, we do need people checking in on whether medications are being taken safely, So
yeah, what time of the day, right? When to take it, how to take it, what if you have something, come in and talk. Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah. And patients get frustrated, because they want to leave also, and maybe sometimes don't understand the importance of the conversations that need to be had about their medications, and how sometimes the things that are happening with them aren't just like a random occurrence, that they're happening because of something that they initiated not too long ago, in their medication profile. And then, so it's kind of all around. There's a misunderstanding of what should be happening.
Yeah, I would say that probably 99% of pharmacists would agree that it's a pretty stressful environment now compared to what it was like 10 years ago even. And that's because we really don't have that full amount of time to talk to the patients, because you do have, it is kind of like assembly line-ish, where we got to really do this. I got 2 doctors on hold for me here. I got these 2 patients waiting for questions. I got this technician asking me a question about what was written on this prescription. Usually got like 5-6 things going on at once, and it gets stressful where you don't really have that like time to really spend time with that patient to go.
Yeah, it's stressful to watch. Like when I walk up to the counter, I mean, you're looking at the techs running around, the pharmacists running around. Like that, it's a stress factory. Seems like, anyway.
Yeah, it's pretty wild these days. I think, and then going into that part about the overprescribing is that.
Yeah.
That was one of the things that as we're going, like we are seeing that more and more people are being put on a lot of different medications, or like people will be on like 4, 5, 6, 7. I mean, there's some people on 20 medications, and it's not slowing down. It's definitely increasing, and most of them are very unaware of their medications, what they're even taking them for, and ways that they could get off of them. And I don't know, that was like our motivation behind starting Health Made in America, is that we need to get that education out there.
Yeah, and I think what you mentioned about getting off of your medications, I think that's a really important thing to mention, because we all know, even back from when we were in school, right? Like we were learning about how we're here as pharmacists to understand the time and the place for these medications, but the goal of the doctor and the patient should always be to get off of the medication and to get out of the disease state that they're in, by doing lifestyle changes and diet modifications. Unfortunately, somewhere along the line, that kind of got lost, and those conversations aren't being had anymore. And so it's just a bunch of kind of just prescribing and then no conversations. So
yeah. And on top of that, but basically a lot of these things are Band-Aids. If people are living a certain lifestyle that's been, let's say, increasing their blood pressure more and more and more, giving them that pill, it usually doesn't stop there. Like, oh, they took this pill and now their blood pressure is just going to be perfect from here on out. It's usually like it'll lower it, and then for a small period of time it'll be fine, and then it'll go back up, because they haven't changed anything in their life for the reason that they got there in the first place, and now they have to have a second blood pressure medication. So now they're on 2, and then later on they'll be on a 3rd one, and then they'll have complications from some of these meds, and then all of a sudden they have to be on something for cholesterol or something else, and they really just start piling on if there's not some sort of education about why they got there in the first place, and trying to fix the underlying cause for how they got there.
So in your experience, well, I'll tell you what I'll put something forth, and you can slap it down, or you can agree with it, or somewhere in between. It's almost as if, and I had a conversation with another guest at one point. He says, I think he told, I'm going to not get the phrase right. It's like when something's wrong, we in America tend to bring out the howitzer and launch an artillery shell at it. And usually that's a prescription drug, instead of taking, incremental steps. And I put that in kind of that requote in there to say that, we all know, I mean, we can't miss it, that eating healthy and exercising is going to address, especially chronic conditions like high cholesterol and blood pressure. But we kind of have a get out of jail free card, because we've got drugs that we can keep eating the way we're eating and artificially control our BP and our cholesterol, for example. And I think that's even more, it's even more recent than that. I mean, we're talking about the weight loss drugs now that everybody flooded the internet with not that long ago, that you just pop a pill and you lose weight. What is it? Is that, is that just news media making mountains out of molehills, or are you guys and guys, I say, male, female, are you guys seeing this the way I'm seeing it, which is like, yeah, I can go ahead with my lifestyle and just throw a pill at it and keep it under control and not have to make changes?
Yeah, that's absolutely there. And I mean, you're currently in the pharmacy, so you can mention more about that. But I want to also say that with that mindset, mental health kind of declines as well, because you let yourself down as a person. There's something to having willpower and giving yourself goals of like, hey, if I want to lose weight, I'm going to change certain things in my life. You get satisfaction, you get a mental high from that, and that improves your mental health. If you're going and turning to kind of like the easy answer, deep down inside in your soul, you cannot hide from yourself. Your mind and your soul know that you're taking kind of the cheap way out, and you end up feeling that kind of also. You don't ever end up matching mentally how you feel with the way that you now look if you have lost weight from this, and who knows how long that's even going to stay, because it wasn't done through kind of the real deal.
Yeah. And going back to the howitzer example, because I do actually agree with that. You're just going at it with this incredible weapon, but those also have a lot of collateral damage. So, and that's what ends up happening as well, is that you're fixing this one thing, but you're not fixing the underlying problem, and every single one of them has potential side effects. I mean, I think even all these new weight loss things, I mean, the list of side effects on them are very huge. Nobody, I don't know if they don't care or they're not aware of them, but
yeah, those are the murmurs at the end of the commercials, right? That everybody
they don't matter. That's why they're murmurs. We can just skip over them.
They do list it on the commercials pretty clearly, so
they're real. And can we just take a second to say this? Like, the side effects are listed because they are real. They're not just said for like just giggles, right? Like, people for some reason feel like they can just be said and then ignored, but like, we wouldn't say them if they weren't actual like things to take seriously. And I don't know why people still have a hard time understanding that when they say that there's a chance of death, like that's real.
Yeah, I think they're pretty, yeah, they could be very severe, but I think what you're saying, everybody's thinking that like, oh, I don't need to change anything, I'm just going to take a bunch of pills, take a bunch of shots, that they're going to do all these things, so they don't need to change anything. But that's the whole thing. And I was talking to her earlier about the comparison to illicit drugs. Somebody that takes an illicit drug, they start off taking some, then they need more and more and more and more, and it just keeps expanding. And as it's just destroying their body, it's kind of like that, where somebody's taking some medicines, they're not changing anything in their life, they're taking these, and then they just slowly keep deteriorating. Now they're on 2 medicine, now 3, now 4, now 5, and just keeps going in that direction. And it is a mindset, I think, that we want to change, because the quality of life of these people is not good. And you could ask any of these people that are on a bunch of medications, they feel like crap all the time. And maybe they have told themselves like, yeah, I'm just naturally feeling like crap and tired all the time, and then maybe they've told themselves that, but their lifestyle and these medicines they're on are very much commonly do these things too. So I think I think you hit it on the head, though, as far as that people are just thinking that way, but I think that's where we want some change.
Yeah, it's the easy button, because eating well and avoiding things that hurt your body is hard to do. Obviously, pleasure, a lot of pleasure in food, a lot of pleasure in substances, and a lot of pleasure in not stressing your body and working out. But there's to your point, there's a lot of pleasure in actually doing those things, because it does improve your mental health. So if the pharmacists don't have time, and the time they do have is, I mean, thank goodness, focused on safety, right? I mean, that's your base core kind of, don't take this and that or you'll die. I mean, I'm glad to hear that safety is still there. But if it's frenetic and filling scripts and short interactions, and the doctors that are prescribing these are maybe not doing what you're preaching, whose role is it to take control of that type of piece of one's health? It sounds like it's my own. That if a doctor isn't looking out for me and trying to figure out, all right, you're on blood pressure medication because you're 140 over 100. Here's a pill. The extra, I think what you're saying is the extra pieces, and we're going to get you off of this, and this is how we're going to do it together. Or is that the pharmacist's role, or is that somebody completely different? Is that on me? Or do I need to find a functional or a nutritionist or somebody else? Where is this gap occurring if it's not occurring necessarily in someone's mentality?
Yeah, I mean, you're so absolutely right. I think that it's not happening anywhere. Right now, there's no healthcare professionals that are really stepping up to do it in mainstream healthcare. I think in all of our curriculums in healthcare, they do specify that one of our roles is to talk to patients about, the diet and lifestyle, but it's not really happening anywhere across the board. So it really does, a big thing does fall on the patient. You as the individual, you've got to be in charge of your own health, because we do live in a time right now where there's a lot of pressure on healthcare workers from different directions, and it's not always at the best interest of the patient. And so if you really want to take good care of yourself, there are good doctors out there. I just want to be clear, they're out there.
Oh, yeah.
So you have to be able to find one, and whether that's a functional doctor, a naturopathic doctor, or just your average, mainstream medical doctor, they're out there. You kind of have to do your due diligence in finding them. There's also a lot of other sources you can go to. Like, I'm an Ayurvedic wellness counselor, right? So I sit down and I have very in-depth conversations about what kind of foods and what kind of lifestyles specifically benefit you as an individual, not like a generalized kind of thing that maybe a dietitian would go over, where it's like, here's the good foods, here are the bad foods. I go through what is good for you and only you based on your circumstances in life. So there's others like myself. There's Ayurvedic counselors, there's Ayurvedic doctors you can seek out. There's a lot of promise in the Eastern medical systems that are being brought over, such as Ayurveda, that are really helping people kind of put a connection between their mind, body, and soul, and kind of enter a more holistic approach to healing, and kind of finding themselves through that. Because eating healthy isn't easy always in this world, and living healthy isn't easy, because there's a lot of noise out there, right, distracting us, but that there are different options.
Yeah. And I want to add, because I think everybody thinks it's just so hard, like they don't want to change their life. They'd rather just take a pill or something. But in like my own scenario, my blood pressure, before I moved in with Sylvia, my blood pressure was always 140 over 90. I was always considered like borderline high blood pressure. And after we went over what foods would be good for like my specific body composition, so we just changed my diet. And I ate out when I lived alone. I ate out a lot, probably like most guys that live alone. And I still love pizza.
It still follows us.
It's pizza. For those of you that listen to different podcasts, pizza is its own food group for me. I can do very well unless you put a strip of New York style pepperoni in front of me.
We love our Nancy's pizza here. I don't know if you're familiar, but
the stuffed one. Yeah, I do love that.
Well, also I'm like, and there's a time and a place for that too. That's the thing. Like, you don't have to say bye to things like this ever. Like,
I think
you have to limit yourself like that.
That's exactly what I want to get at, is that I just changed basically not eating out all the time, and changing over some of my foods to the foods that were good for me, and just getting more organic food, and basically like getting rid of packaged foods, nothing like overly processed that would have a lot of chemicals in there anyways. I basically just changed to that. Didn't change anything else in my life as far as exercise or anything else like that. And that's all I changed. And my blood pressure then, after about a year, went down to 125 over like 70. So and so it's cool to see. It's like, okay, I didn't have to change anything else, and it just went down. So like, I think it is easier than people think to just at least get themselves, so they don't have to be on a bunch of medicines and or have like and not have that lower quality of life. I think it's simpler than most people think.
I want to ask another question, which might be a little, I don't know. I don't think controversial is the term. I'm going to go back to the actual practitioner side of it. Do you think some of this has to do with weight? Not only what you're eating, right, the processed piece, but the amount you're eating, and then the weight that everybody's carrying around. There's been a very large, loud movement in the last, 10 years? I mean, I hear it from my kids, no fat shaming. Like I've used the word, if I say, who was that guy? And they're like, who else? And I go, I don't know, the fat guy in the corner. They're like, oh, don't say fat. I'm like, whoa, he was. Well, you can't do that. You can't body shame. You can't fat shame. And that's been a thing for a while. I'm not trying to fat shame anybody, but is there a reticence now in the healthcare community, or at least in the pharmacist community, to stay away from that type of thing? You don't have the interaction, but you don't get a chance to say things. But when you do get a chance, is there, do you think there's some kind of reticence at all to like even discuss it, because it goes into this realm of, everybody is beautiful and don't fat shame? Is there some sort of weird societal thing going on here too? Or am I just old school and I'm out of it?
Well, I think that, if you're just talking to somebody specifically about health, like that is a clear thing that should be addressed. I mean, your weight will reflect your health. So just if you're looking just at health, like, yeah, for sure that needs to be noticed and rectified. But I think as far as the rest of people saying that, big is beautiful and things like that, I mean, to each their own. But, I would say that I wouldn't tell people that that's going to be a healthier way to live, and that they won't have a lower quality of life in the long run living that way. So,
and quite honestly, I think that we as healthcare professionals have a responsibility to tell that honest truth to people. Because we're not trying to fat shame anybody, but you're right. People have become very sensitive about that these days, and it's taken route in the wrong direction, unfortunately, and it is affecting health. So
and I mean, there's a clear. I mean, I see thousands of people every week, and I mean, there's a clear correlation. Somebody that carries more weight does tend to be on more diabetic medications, cholesterol medications, blood pressure medications. I mean, there's a very clear correlation that mental health too. It does lead to more diseases.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to put myself in, your shoes or a healthcare practitioner's shoes with all this going around me, going, okay, how do I talk about this sensitive subject, which 20 years ago wasn't sensitive. It wasn't. It was just like, yeah, Matt, you're 30 pounds overweight. You need to lose 30 pounds. Like
the people, and I don't know if that's, and that is more fluff, because like the people that we deal with though by the pharmacy, like none of them would feel shamed by us or feel that we're being rude. So like I don't think like people there ever feel that way. And maybe that's a lot of fluff that happens in some part of the world, but in general, like the people that we deal with, like they would never feel shamed by us telling them that they may need to lose weight or anything like that. Like they understand that has led to why they're in front of me at the pharmacy. So
Got it. So it's not a it's a doctor or a pharmacist talking about medical pieces, not just me. Like I said, like referencing some fat guy in a corner and my kids getting mad at me for saying it. Totally different.
Something magical happens when we have like a white coat on, where we can like say certain things and they don't get taken out of context, and they just get taken straight for what we're trying to say, and people are able to receive it that way.
Yeah, it is true. We do get respect automatically with that white coat, because a technician may say something and they may yell at the technician, then I'll walk over and they'll be super nice to me. So,
well, I mean, you deserve it. I mean, you're both doctors of pharmacy. You spent thousands of dollars and years of your life studying this stuff. You have to be, I mean, yeah, you're the pros. That's why we're talking, right? That's why you're talking to patients.
For sure.
Yeah. Can we go into you mentioned, I think, supplements and natural foods, and I maybe we'll go there next, but I do want to get Sylvia into I'm going to mess this up. You've said it like 5 times. Ayurvedic.
Yeah, good job. Yeah.
Woo. All right. Something in the brain's working. Can we go back into kind of the pharmacological piece of where you guys see there's a gap? And I know you talked about, was it probiotics and gut health, but also the difference between natural, vitamins and minerals versus not natural. Can you talk about that from a kind of a pharmacology standpoint, what you see and what's optimal?
Yeah, so it's interesting, right? Because herbs, for example, herbs and a lot of supplements, they work holistically on the body. A lot of the pharmacological agents, I would say most of them, they target specific like neurotransmitters or specific chemicals in your body, right? Or organs. And they are lab synthesized. They're not made from natural matter that your body can recognize and process. So not only are they not holistically targeting your whole body to rebalance it, they're targeting one specific area, but they are unnatural and your body cannot process them, right? So that's the difference between pharmacological agents and then natural supplements and herbals. We are really big on trying to promote more supplement and herbal use because we want your body to be able to process what you are putting into it. With the pharmacological agents, what happens is that you take a pill, it maybe does adjust, let's say your blood pressure, for an example, it does adjust your blood pressure, but your body doesn't ever actually process that medication. It literally cannot identify it. So it doesn't properly digest it and process it as it would an herbal. Okay. And so then what happens is that there gets basically like a backup happens and there gets stagnant energy in your body. And because you're not processing these agents, they start wreaking havoc on your body as side effects, right? And they kind of throw other things off balance. And that's how you end up getting the side effects and having to take more medications and so on and so forth. So these pharmacological agents, they're not processed basically by your body the way that an herbal would be processed. Does that make sense?
It does. Do the herbal things work? I mean, I know a lot of people take them. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry, but I don't know. If I've read, I'm going to make something up. Maybe I'm completely wrong, but what is it? Red yeast something for your blood pressure, and then I'm going, well, is that the same thing as a group of chemists coming together and doing trials for years and years and years? There's one that's kind of backed by science and trial in the drug industry, and it's approved and it's FDA, the whole thing, and then I've got to go, I got to take or in addition, I can take red rice. I'm messing it up.
What is it? Rice, yeah.
What is it?
Red yeast rice, yeah.
Red yeast rice, and that does the same job apparently. Where there's some sort of cognitive dissonance in my brain that goes, 10-year chemist project that is proven through double-blinded studies and FDA approval, and red rice yeast. Or red yeast rice. I don't know what that is, but you can see what I'm getting at. There's how are these two equal? Yeah.
Well, first of all, I think a lot of the medications that are coming out are based off of what naturally growing things have done in the body, and they see how those work in the body, and then they turn it into a pill. So they do try to go off of those things because something that's growing naturally on Earth is part of nature, and we're part of nature. Your body is much more likely to digest it and work holistically in your body, and so they're much safer than something synthetic. But what I did want to say is that doesn't necessarily mean that every single herbal is going to necessarily work for you or for each individual. So some of them are going to be specific to the individual, and I wasn't as familiar with that aspect of it until Sylvia was teaching me some of these things with Ayurveda. And because your body composition and things like that do matter on different foods and different herbals that would be good for you and some that would be bad for you. And I think like ashwagandha was one that I remember me and her talking about, like it would be good for some people and not good for others. And that's like an herbal that would be, on the shelf that you can buy. So it's not necessarily like automatic that it will work for sure. But it is going to be, it is going to be safer than your basically average medication you're going to take from the pharmacy.
And yeah, the studies have been done, because I know you're saying that the studies were there, it's FDA approved, all that good stuff. The studies are definitely there, but that doesn't mean that the side effects are not. It's almost like we know more about the side effects, so we somehow like give it we say that it's okay. Do you know what I mean? Like it's like we don't know as much about the side effects of the herbals. We know more about the verified side effects of the pharmaceutical agents, and that they happen very often and they're pretty outrageous. But just because that's kind of disclosed, we're like more comfortable taking medication. Not
or playing the odds, right? It says in a very small percentage, but I always kind of it kind of sounds like a birds and the bees talk with it, had with my son. I was like, well, yeah. Condoms are 99% effective. That doesn't mean the 99th time you'll get pregnant. It could mean the first time.
Right. That's true. And I actually want to go back to your howitzer example again, because if an agent does target that one specific thing, then in a trial, of course, it may show, oh yeah, it did lower this guy's blood pressure, even though it may have, like, let's say it destroyed his kidney or something else, but oh yeah, it did. This trial shows this is super effective. It did fix, it lowered their blood pressure. And but that doesn't mean it's going to still go up a little bit down the road, or that it destroyed something else. But yeah, for that specific thing that they are doing a trial for, yes, that did lower it right there. But that's very similar to, I think, your howitzer quote, basically.
So two doctors of pharmacy both saying basically, well, not basically, I'm summarizing. Don't let me put words in your mouth.
No,
when you have a condition, and it's not maybe acute, right, or maybe it's not very, very complex or genetic, or maybe it is. When you have something like high blood pressure or high glucose and blood sugars, or pre-diabetes or something like that, and a doctor prescribes you something, it sounds like you're both kind of advocating an interim step there to say, well, don't not fill the script, but maybe look at some other alternatives before doing that around the diet and lifestyle choices. And on top of that, reach out to people or a professional or another doctor to see if there are interim steps before firing that howitzer.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I would say always have the strength to have that conversation with your doctor, the doctor that's giving you the medication right off the bat. Find the strength within you to have the conversation of, hey, you know what? I don't want to start on this medication yet. Let's talk about different options that I can take, or I can do prior to me filling this medication. I think that these conversations need to be put out there. And, you come home so many times, right? Like with different conversations that he had about people being really unsatisfied with the visits that they just had at their doctors, and they felt like they weren't being listened to, and they come in with a script and they don't even know what it's for. And you can tell that these people were just so scared to tell their doctor that they don't want to put this medication in their body. And I'm all about being able to choose what you do with your body, and even a doctor should not be able to tell you that. So these conversations need to start. Like, find the strength within you to say, hey, let's find different solutions for me. I don't think I like this one. And a good doctor will support you. And if he doesn't, well, then you know that it's time to look for a different doctor.
That power of that white coat again.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It is. Yeah.
Yeah, you got to be involved in your healthcare. Can we pivot then to I'm going to do it again, Ayurvedic studies? Yeah, you touched on it early on. And you likened it to the other side of yoga, right? And I know my sister is a yoga instructor, and I had no idea the hundreds of hours of study and practice to go be a certified yoga instructor. I mean, it was insane. I mean, when I thought of it, I mean, like, I have my insurance license. I had to study for a couple of days and pass with a 70%. That is not what yoga was. And I have to assume, yeah, that is not what Ayurvedic studying is and being certified. So can you explain what that is, how long it took you to get it, and how prevalent or not prevalent that is? Because this is the first time I've ever heard of it.
It's not prevalent whatsoever at this point still. We're seeing it kind of slipping in more. I mean, you mentioned ashwagandha. Have you ever heard of ashwagandha, Matt?
I've heard the phrase. I have no idea what it means. For all I know, it's a entree.
It sounds like it, right? No, so it's an herb that a lot of people are taking for anxiety and uplifting their moods, and that's an Ayurvedic herb, actually. So it's coming in through different kind of more popular herbals these days, and then people I think are kind of just reaching out to different realms and kind of finding out about Ayurveda. But to be an Ayurvedic wellness counselor, it was a year-long program for me. I went through Kerala Ayurveda Academy, which is amazing. It's taught by the main professor was a sixth generation Ayurvedic doctor from India. So he was truly, I talk about him like regularly. He was the most amazing individual I've ever gotten the pleasure to learn from. We started each class with making sure we have a cup of tea, and nobody ever cared about me having tea in pharmacy school. Okay. They were just, they did not care. Okay. So, it was a beautiful program. I can tell you that we spent 20 hours alone just learning about the philosophy of Ayurveda, of this ancient wisdom. That is more hours than the average medical doctor gets on diet, which is the building block of health. So we did that. And a big part of Ayurveda is preventative medicine. They have basically a section for everything, including like pediatric surgery. I mean, it goes into a lot of different specialties that you can kind of go into. And that of course takes more years of studies, but kind of the main thing about Ayurveda is this whole idea of we can live a lifestyle that prevents problems, that we don't have to get sick first and then figure out what to do. We can actually live a good way and prevent these issues through everything, or just our daily lives, right? Because everything goes into our health. Literally, the people that we talk to, the kind of music that we listen to, the time we go to bed, whether we feel safe in the community that we live in, every little thing, not just diet and exercise, really affects our health. So that's kind of what was the main focus of that year-long program, was that learning how all the foods affect our bodies. Ayurveda has this really cool way of looking at food from kind of the more physical realm. And it's almost like a very quantum physics approach to what effect food has on you. Like here in the US, we talk about like, oh, you eat these vegetables, they have these vitamins, they have, or something else has like this much protein, this much carbs, this is kind of your goal. It's very superficial, kind of just chemical, I guess what's the word I'm looking for? Physical based. Whereas Ayurveda takes it to more the functional level of what happens to your food when you eat it and digest it, and you have to extract all that energy to then fuel all of your cells and all of your tissues and all of your organs. Are you actually getting all of those proteins and carbs from this beautiful organic meal you just ate wherever? Or are you not doing that because your digestion is not, in the right place to be kind of digesting and translating all that into the energy that you need, if that makes sense.
No, it does.
So it's a very quantum physics approach to food and lifestyle.
Yeah, I've had Natasha Trenov on the show, and she's I think the mother of probiotics. It was a fascinating hour-long discussion about, it's not just the stuff you buy off the shelf. It has to be passed down. It has to be cultured. It has to be very, very specific, or it's mostly just waste. If you're taking, and not to pick on a brand name, so I won't, but, if you walk into a grocery store and pick up a probiotic yogurt, that's not what she was talking about at all. And so in terms of digestion, probiotics are a thing, but also, can you talk more about what you've learned around the digestion and your digestive system and the ability to digest certain foods and your tolerances, and like you said, the physical reaction, I guess, to that, rather than just the whole 33% fat, 33% carbs, 33% protein.
Yeah, so in Ayurveda, what we say basically is that your digestive system it can be one of three things. It can either be, and this is kind of your predisposition throughout your life. You can either have a very slow functioning digestive system, which we call, you have like a low digestive fire is what it's equated to. You could have a variable one where it just becomes kind of based on the day, you have either like a high or low one, or you could have a very high functioning digestive fire or a digestive system. And that can be equated to basically metabolism, how we talk about it in our society. And so for individuals that have a low functioning digestive system, that's where most of your metabolic diseases are going to be. Like, so anything that's, people that are overweight, people that have diabetes, like all the different metabolic conditions, they're going to fall into that category. People with slow digestive systems will also have a lot of constipation issues, and they're going to have a hard time basically converting all of their food into energy. So there's going to be a lot of leftover unconverted food in their stomachs and in their systems at the end of digestion. For people that have a very high functioning digestive system, they're going to basically have food that like shoots through. So often those are the individuals that will have diarrhea like right after they eat. And because everything's just kind of going through. And so kind of like with the person that has the low functioning digestive system, food is still not getting cooked through because it's not low functioning, but it's so fast functioning that the food shoots through and doesn't get a chance to get absorbed and the nutrients are not taken in. So the whole idea is to kind of get into kind of like a daily flow where you can have a balanced digestive system, a balanced metabolism, or that fire. And there is so much that goes into it. So in terms of food, eating very natural foods, right? You want to eat foods that your body can actually handle, aren't going to be overloading your system, and it's actually going to be able to digest. So you want to stick to natural foods. You want to do unprocessed foods, less packaged foods. So that's that with foods. You want to have a good circadian rhythm of going to sleep at a good time and waking up on time. People don't really think about how their digestive system is impacted by their sleep, but there's a huge correlation there. So you want to kind of even look at that. I feel like I've digressed.
No, you haven't. Yeah, I know it was the digestive, and I was thinking kind of the low was bad and the high was good, but you just said the high was bad. Are you looking for some balance in the middle?
You want to thank you for getting back on track. You want to basically be in the middle. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm totally losing my track of mind right now. Pregnancy brain, here it is.
Pregnancy brain and lack of sleep, I'm guessing, or broken sleep. You said 4 weeks, right?
4-week-old baby.
Yeah.
That's all good. Well, then why don't I just go back to let me just go back to something else, the Ayurvedic studies. So as a pharmacist with a pharmacist background, what did you find in your studies that kind of rounded out what you learned in formal education here in the States about pharmacology that you didn't know or weren't taught or went, you know what, there's the missing link?
Oh man, looking at the root cause of conditions. So I remember being in pharmacy school, and each time that they would bring up a new medication, I remember being so confused. It was my first week of pharmacy school, and I just remember being like, wait, I don't understand how this solves the problem. Like this, like, because then the side effect came up and then we gave another medication. But when did we actually address the issues? Like, why? I kept wanting to know, like, well, why does this person have this problem? Like, shouldn't we be addressing that? But that never was getting addressed in any of the classes. It was just kind of like, when they have this problem, give them this to suppress it. In my Ayurvedic studies, it's all about getting to the root cause of the problem, right? And that's what we're both really big on. You don't want to just suppress the issue. You want to get to the root cause. And so finally, I think it was my first time in healthcare being like, oh, okay, finally, I can understand how to take an individual and I can talk to them and figure out what has caused them to have this elevated blood pressure or high cholesterol or high sugar levels, what in their life they've been doing over a period of time, where we can kind of backtrack and be like, okay, I understand now, here are the things that we can adjust, and here's how we can actually, be able to ultimately get you off of your medications. So that's kind of what it did for me. I finally saw, like, okay, there's a way to really heal people. It's not just about slapping all these Band-Aids on them with drugs.
Yeah, what I was thinking of, the old Chuck E. Cheese whack-a-mole.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, this side effect. Oh, hit that one. You get another side effect from that drug. We'll hit that one, and pretty soon you're on 5-6 meds, right, for one thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Sounds crazy when it's put like that, doesn't it?
It really does, but it's unfortunately reality.
Yeah.
But we're changing this. This is what we're doing. We're changing this.
Well, yeah, that's what I was going to say. So you're both learned healthcare practitioners. Both, I mean, currently in market, doing your thing. All right, full-time jobs, and then you've got another health and wellness company, Health Made in America, and obviously it's very clear that both of your passions are leading you to this whole, like, okay, there has to be something in here where we can leverage what we know and leverage our experience, not only historical, but actually current, and make something and fill a gap. Talk to me about what your vision is for Health Made in America.
Well, probably in the very most direct future, it's going to be education. And we do kind of want to start from like the beginning of life. And by that, we mean literally in the womb. So we kind of want to start with education, especially now that we just went through it, for pregnancy. So we want to get information out to people, because a lot of people are very unaware of maybe what medicines they can take or alternative things while they're pregnant, and just the kind of diets and foods they should be having while they're pregnant. So I think we want to start. We want to start from that point and work our way to kids, because I think that was our eventual goal, was to educate kids, because we think that's the best place for them to start, is early in their life.
Yep. And what about older adults? And what if I already have, what if I've been on blood pressure medication for 10, 20, or 30 years? What if I think it's, such a normal part of my life now? Is it ever too late to change, or is retirement and older adulthood a perfect place to set yourself up for the remaining years?
Yeah, it's never too late to change. And it's interesting, because actually in Ayurveda, you're not considered in your advanced stage of life yet until you're 72. And that's kind of like plus or minus a few years. So that's so different than how we look at life here in America. We think that, when we're 40, life is ending. It's like, my back hurts. Oh, but what do you expect? I'm 40. And it's like, wait, what? No, come on. So, I really like that kind of approach of like, no, like you're not old. You're just not, and it's never too late. And you should always kind of live like you still have 1,000 years to live. So it's never too late to get off those medications, even if you've been on them for 20 years. they might be outdated for you. You might be able to get inspired and make a few tweaks and take that retirement time to really invest in yourself, because it's not too late, and get off that medication, feel your personal best. There's a lot of people that I've spoken to that feel better at the age of 60 than they did when they were 30 or 20 even. So there's a lot of people like that, and I say do it.
Yeah, and like we deal with patients all the time that are mostly probably 40 or older anyways at the pharmacies, and we've helped plenty of people get off medication. So definitely it's doable. Anybody can do it. I mean, you just got to find out maybe where it kind of started and why it's happening, or maybe just a couple little tweaks in your life, and you could get off of these things. Because some people are at a point where they could get off of them, but I feel like they're afraid to get off of things because they don't want to tell their doctor that they're going to get off of it. But it's very doable for people to get off, especially like these lifestyle, especially these. I'm not talking about like the acute stuff, but like these chronic diseases that happen to a lot of people, especially the common ones, cholesterol and blood pressure, things like that. Those are ones people could make changes and get off of.
And also, if anybody that's listening does kind of like have that already in mind, they have questions about their medications and they've been curious about like, do I really need these? What can I maybe be doing else to help me avoid these medications? And they don't necessarily feel comfortable talking to their current pharmacist or their doctor. I do want to invite them to come talk to us on our website, healthmadeinaamerica.com. because we do have a little tab on there that's consult the pharmacist. And that's me. I'm that pharmacist. So I always say, like, please, this is free questions. Like, it's as if we're in the pharmacy together. And I'm so happy to always kind of give my best advice and see where we can kind of take things from there. So, yeah.
Thanks. And what else can I do on your website? I know, do you have one-on-one consulting? Do you have group classes? What do you have?
Mm-hmm. So we have, well, first of all, when you go on there, you can take a look at our probiotic, right? We obviously have a huge passion towards digestion. We feel it's the place to start for your health. So that's where you can purchase our probiotic. Take a look at that there. We do have the ability to sign up for consultations on there. I believe there's you can either fill out a form on there, or you can email me or call me and we can set that up. I do in-person consultations and virtual ones as well. So there's that. And then we are currently working on classes and courses that we're going to be offering on different levels. So that's kind of something that's coming up and to look forward to.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I promised I'd get to it, so I'm going to ask it. You guys met at work, huh?
He was my manager.
Yes. You know, she transferred
I still get giddy.
she transferred into my store, and it was actually funny because, like, technically, because I was the manager, I couldn't be dating her. So
right.
So we had to have this awkward conversation where we met up the district manager, and it's funny because he saw us both walking up, and he said he had like just a totally different thought about what we were going to say about, like, we hated the other pharmacists working with us or something. And I just was like, oh, we were pursuing a relationship because we didn't want to get in any like trouble, like corporate wise.
Yeah, right.
They just transferred her out to another store, but
it was a really bittersweet thing because I loved him, but at the same time, he was the best manager ever, and I knew that I would have it so much harder at every other store I go to. So it was kind of like, what do I do? You followed
your HR guidebooks very well. I'm very impressed. I don't think many people would have done that. And I will say as well, I met my wife at work too. It happens.
I think that's the place, right?
Similar interests. You spend time together, and nature happens.
Absolutely, yeah. You gotta let nature take its course.
That's right. Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Well, you guys were by the book. It sounds like it. That was great. I wasn't. But I wasn't. We weren't each other's managers. We were just coworkers. Be very clear about that.
Okay, that's a little less scandalous. Okay.
Yeah. It wasn't very scandalous. It wasn't. There was no potential for scandal. Awesome. Well, look, this has been a great conversation. Tell me something, a question I didn't ask you that I should have about this kind of combination of topics, or something that I missed that I didn't pick up on that I should have explored more.
You know what? Just reiterating maybe the fact that to make sure everybody is empowered to confront their doctor or ask their doctor questions, because I see a crazy amount of stuff every day of doctors just going off literally guidelines and nothing else. And it's leading to them writing prescriptions wrong and doing a lot of wild stuff. And it seems like that's a trending in that direction, that people are no longer like treating that patient they're literally seeing them for shorter periods of time, taking blood work, writing a bunch of things for them. But what I've seen is like them going off like weights and like just going off guidelines, just looking at the guidelines, punching in a calculator, and their dose is going like super crazy, out of control, like that wouldn't be good for people. So people need to pay attention to what they're taking and not be afraid of their doctors, and to ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions to them. And pharmacists, you see how crazy they are all the time. You know what? You ultimately are in charge of making sure that you're taking the right thing too. You know, don't just rely on everybody else around you to take care of it.
Yeah.
Awesome. James, Sylvia, thanks so much for being on the show.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you. It was so much fun. Mm-hmm.
The Matt Feret Show, related content, publications, and MF Media LLC is in no way associated, endorsed, or authorized by any governmental agency, including the Social Security Administration, the Department of Health and Human Services, or the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. The Matt Feret Show is in no way associated with, authorized, approved, endorsed, nor in any way affiliated with any company, trademark names, or other marks mentioned or referenced in or on The Matt Feret Show. Any such mention is for purpose of reference only. Any advice, generalized statistics, or opinions expressed are strictly those of the host and guests of The Matt Feret Show. Although every effort has been made to ensure the contents of The Matt Feret Show and related content are correct and complete, laws and regulations change quickly and often. The ideas and opinions expressed on The Matt Feret Show aren't meant to replace the sage advice of healthcare, insurance, financial planning, accounting, or legal professionals. You are responsible for your financial decisions. It is your sole responsibility to independently evaluate the accuracy, correctness, or completeness of the content, services, and products of, and associated with, The Matt Feret Show, MF Media LLC, and any related content or publications. The thoughts and opinions expressed on The Matt Feret Show are those of the host and The Matt Feret Show guests only, and are not the thoughts and opinions of any current or former employer of the host or guests of The Matt Feret Show, nor is The Matt Feret Show made by, on behalf of, or endorsed or approved by any current or former employer of the host or guests of The Matt Feret Show.